It's a brand new day. The sun is shining. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long, long time, I know I'll be okay.
Hello and welcome to this month's Paintbox project. Today's guest painter here with me is my fiance's daughter, Morgan. She's here visiting from Omaha, and she's glad to be in Louisville for this Memorial Day weekend. And she's excited about painting the bicycle project. It looks a little difficult for a first project. I try to keep the projects really beginner level, so we'll walk her through step by step along with you all, and we'll try to keep it really easy. You looking forward to it?
I know I am.
Okay, good. Okay, so we are back and we are going to start the drawing, and I'm going to just get my brush a little bit wet and I'm going to dip it over here into this yellow ochre paint, thin it out just a little bit, and I'm going to make a dot at the halfway mark on each side of the canvas. So that gives us the drawing parameters. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this diagonal line that is the edge of the boardwalk. I'm going to come out over down to my left bottom corner, go up about an inch for that first dot, and I'm going to connect my line. I'm going to go to the right hand corner up top, make a dot at about an inch, and connect those dots. Okay, then I'm going to put in the front, well, let's see, the grass. Top of the grass starts almost right here at this halfway mark. It goes almost right to that halfway mark. So those little halfway dots help us a little bit, don't they, Morgan? The wheels, the front wheel, I'm going to go right to about this, at about 1/4, up an inch, and that wheel goes up to about halfway, that circle, nice big circle. The back wheel, I'm gonna come over to this halfway dot, come over an inch, and I'm just gonna start a big circle going up here and down and around. I've gotten a little bit big. Up above the first wheel, I'm gonna draw almost like a little rectangle. That's the basket with some little flowers. And let's have a handlebar coming out on each side. Then over the back wheel, I've got kind of this little kidney bean shape, and that's the back seat. Then I'm going to connect the front and the back with this kind of the bar, the top bar. Oh, I guess it's a girl's bike, so I'm going to lower that bar a little bit. It's a pretty blue bike for a girl. And a lady's bike, I should say, right? And then I'm going to draw this circle here in the middle where the petals come out. And a triangle connecting the seat, the center of the petals, and into the center of the tire, and down from the seat. There's almost like a little triangle. And then let's draw a circle in the middle of each wheel. And spokes. We're going to paint those spokes in later, so we don't have to be very specific about them, just kind of indicate them. Now, if I went a little fast, I kind of jumped through all those shapes, pause the video and go back and find the diagonals, find the 2 circles, and then the basket and the seat, and then the little petal area, and then the bars. So pause the video and come back and catch up with us in step 2. Okay, we're ready to start step 2, and that is the water and the grass. So for the water, Morgan, now we're going to use this I was telling you about called the palette knife. And it's kind of like a kitchen spatula, with only the front end of it is kind of bendy. So you want to just keep all your paint here on this first inch or so, and the rest of it is just too stiff to use back there. So it's meant to just kind of help you mix the color. So for the watercolor, I want you to pick up with the tip of your knife, pick up some white. Just put it down here in the middle of your palette where you have room to mix. And then I want you to go over to that first blue, that's the one that's a little bit lighter, and just get a little speck of that pretty light blue. That's called cerulean blue. And we'll mix that in and make a pretty watercolor. So you can use the side of the knife a little bit. See how I'm scraping along with the side of it. And you know that color, I like to have maybe at least 2 or 3 shades of every color going in, so you see some highlights and things. I'm going to take this color that I made, I'm going to cut it in half, move a little of it over, and add more white to it. I want to have one lighter shade. You'll see me cut piles in half a lot, because if you're going to add more paint, like add more white, your pile will get bigger and bigger, and so more white. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the paint with my brush. So your brush, you want to hold it back a little bit. We don't want to clamp down like we're drawing. It's not like a piece of chalk or a pencil. We want to hold it back like it's a brush, and your brush strokes come from your shoulder. So I want you to come over here and sweep like you're sweeping with a broom, and pick up that first color and just start putting it down. And you see how my brush is kind of shallow, almost parallel to the canvas? Get some nice long brush strokes. I'm just alternating now the darker color. So it looks like the water's pretty calm out there. This might be a little boardwalk, maybe down in Kiowa or the Atlantic shore. Morgan and I went on a trip to Kiowa a few years ago. Or it was Hilton Head. It was Hilton Head, wasn't it? Yeah.
Where is Kiowa?
It's near Charleston. I have too much of this lighter blue, so I'm gonna make a little bit of the darker blue again, make a little more. Just kind of alternating those 2 shades. It looks a little bit like waves. Just a little bit of pretty blue water in the upper corner here. And so can you feel that paint kind of sliding underneath your brush, Morgan? That's what everybody likes about oil paints. It's almost like spreading icing.
It is.
And it's real smooth.
And relaxing.
It is. There's something so relaxing. It's like when people talk about working with pottery and they just love the feel of the clay. There's something about oils where you get that tactile experience that I don't think you get at all with watercolor. Pastel, at least chalk, you can kind of get your fingers in there and have a little texture, tactile experience. So I think that's it. I might pick up a little white and just make a little white wave up in there. And that's it for the water.
I like my water.
Good, I love it. I just love to hear when somebody says something positive about their own painting. When I'm teaching class, I hear a lot of moaning and groaning about people being really hard on what they've done, being hard on themselves. Okay, so now I'm going to make the grass. And if you remember from grade school, if you had any art in grade school, we would talk about yellow and blue making green. So first thing I'm going to do is with my palette knife is pick up this bright yellow, that first yellow, that real bright one. And then I'm going to pick up just a little bit of that dark, dark ultramarine blue. Just a little bit on the tip of my, and I'm going to just mix it in there to that yellow and get a really nice kind of medium green. We're going to make 3 shades of green.
You said the
bright yellow and then a little bit of the dark blue. Just a little bit, maybe a little. That's probably okay. Just, you know, it's your 3 shades, whatever. We're gonna have a light, a medium, and a dark. So that first shade we made I made is that medium. So hopefully you've got a medium shade there. So for the lighter shade, we're gonna add even less blue. So you're going to have a hunk of yellow and just a tiny, tiny speck of blue will give you more of a light green.
I need more yellow.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to...
Same color.
Yes. A palette knife can be used to paint with instead of a brush,
That's what I was
or it can be used to mix paint. So I'm going to make, I had this pretty light green shade that I made. So what you could do is you could probably,
cut it in half.
yeah, or just, yeah, take a quarter of that, or half, yeah. And then add some more yellow in there. Now for the darker shade, I'm going to take the opposite. I'm going to take a bigger pile of blue and a little less yellow. So the middle pile was kind of 50-50. And then the first pile was mostly yellow with a speck of blue. The darker pile is going to be mostly green with a speck of yellow. And that's going to be for the shadowy color down here at the bottom where the grass, the sunlight's up above us, so the sunlight hits the top of the grass, but it doesn't make it all the way through the deep, thick grasses, so it's a little shadowy along the bottom. Ooh, that's a pretty color. All right. Looking good there, Morgan. So the next shade's going to be mostly the blue. Pull mostly the blue down in a pile. Your dark ultramarine blue, and then just this little speck of yellow in there. And I'm going to do the same thing. You'll notice too with my palette knife, I kind of scoop all that paint up with the side of the knife and put it back down in the little pile so it's easier to pick up. It's more efficient that way. I'm going to sweep with my brush, kind of pull it towards you so you're not stabbing the bristles backwards. Pull it towards you, and let's put that lighter color in up here at the top. I just love riding a bike by the beach.
Me too.
We wish the beach was closer around here in Louisville. We have to drive at least 10 hours to get there. Then I'm going to take the medium green, I'm going to start bringing it down, and you can see I'm painting just kind of in long lines. Sometimes we have to stop and make more paint, and if you need to, just pause the video. That's the nice thing about this is in my live classes, I have to stop a lot and let everybody catch up. So lately, in the videos, if we're painting something, I like to try to put in something personal or something from the class that relates. So I'll see if I can't find some pictures of the boardwalks around the beaches that we've been to visit, and maybe put it in at the end of the video. And some of you all are painting in faraway places. Maybe you don't get to the southern coastal beaches. So we'll share some pictures with you. I don't have any dogs here with me today, so we don't hear any snoring. Morgan's visiting from Omaha, like I said, and she brought her little miniature Aussie, Australian Shepherd, and her little Sophie's home playing with our new Gracie, who's our full-sized Australian Shepherd. And they wear themselves out. I'm painting the grass right here underneath those tires, or in a little bit in the middle of that tire where it comes through. And I forgot to draw another line earlier.
For what?
I kind of like, there's a little bit of lawn here before the marsh grasses start growing. It's just kind of like a little bit of lawn between the sidewalk and the boardwalk. So I'm going to draw a little line right there so we can draw some of that grass in. And with that grass color, I'm going to use a different formula. So I'm going to take, and so Morgan, if you use like the flat side of your brush first, see, I'm going to put, if you pull up a big hunk of paint and use the flat side and just put it in real, and then you can turn and make little kind of more grass-like strokes. So paint it in kind of big with the flat side first. There you go. So for this little area of the lawn here between the boardwalk and the marsh grasses, I'm going to make another color. I'm going to take a little bit of that mustardy yellow ochre, a little bit of the yellow, regular yellow, and some white. Maybe a little bit of this leftover green that I have here. So it's almost like when the grass looks kind of, maybe a little blue, when the grass looks kind of dry in the summer. Just a very light kind of soft beige color, beigey green. Again, I'm going to sweep with my brush, pick that up, lay it down here. Looks a little dark. I'm going to throw some white in there. And I'm just going ahead and going right in between where the bike's going to go. I'm not going to worry too much about exactly where those bars are. A little here below the seat and a little above. So Morgan, you see what area I'm talking about next? That this is this little grassy lawn area.
You said you used...
I used a little of the yellow ochre and a little of the regular yellow and a little bit of blue, so that makes it kind of a soft green, and then a little white to lighten that up. Whenever a color's a little bit lighter, you know it's going to have some white in it. Just going to kind of make that look like it's a soft little some mowed grass, maybe shorter grass. I went to a friend's home off the coast of South Carolina, and there were lots and lots of boardwalks and lots of biking. So I'll have to dig up a picture from that trip. It was a place called De Bordeaux, which I believe means God's woods, the woods of God. But everybody puts a southern twist on it and calls it De Bordeaux. They call it De Bordeaux Island, and it's really De Bordeaux. Now, this doesn't have to look perfectly like water yet or perfectly like grass. Everything's completed in the last step. So what we're doing now is we're just laying color in. And then in the very last step, we come back and kind of make it look like what we really want it to look like. So I will let you all get caught up here before we start the next step, which is going to be the boardwalk. But like I said, here, the grass here and the grass here don't look quite the same because I haven't really put the finishing touches on yet. So we're just kind of laying everything in. And then the final step is the finishing touches. And we will take a break and then start the boardwalk. Okay, we're going to start the boardwalk step. So we're going to be making a light brown. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our palette knife and come over to that darker brown. There's like a warm reddish brown followed by just a dark earthy brown. I'm just going to pick up a little tiny bit of that. Put it down here. Get ready to mix some white into that. So pick up a kind of a bigger hunk of white and stir up a light brown there. Yeah, this brown's a little bit too, what I would say is too warm. I kind of want it more gray, what I just made. So I'm going to put just a tiny speck of this dark blue. And that'll make it a prettier gray brown. That's pretty. And now I am going to reach over here and get some more white. Putting down some more white so I can make some more of these boardwalk colors. So I'm going to make 3 shades of brown. Kind of a rule of thumb is let's always pretty much plan on making 3 shades of whatever I'm talking about. So I'm going to have a light, a medium, and a dark brown for the boardwalk. So the first shade, I made this really light one here. I'm going to make a medium brown. So pick up the brown. I'm going to put in a little bit of this blue to kind of make that kind of more of a gray brown. And then a little less white this time. Just add just a little white at a time, see how it comes out. It's a little dark. So you know what I'm gonna do, since I made a kind of a big pile, I'm gonna cut it in half, move half of it over. Let's add white to one of the now smaller piles. Maybe a little more white in there. Kind of like the wood has been bleached out, kind of like this wood on my table here. Oh, that's pretty. And I guess I can use this one that's here, the one that I thought was a little too dark earlier. I'm just gonna leave that alone, and that can be my dark. Put a little blue in it to kind of gray it out. And now I have a light, a medium, and a dark wood color for the boardwalk. I'm gonna pick up my brush, and let's take the light color first. I'm gonna just sweep like it's a broom, pick it up, and I'm gonna just come straight across. We're gonna say those boards are going directly, not diagonal, but straight across from the angle that we're looking. I'm gonna put maybe this medium color down, just pulling across horizontal brush strokes. It looks like I'm gonna have to make up quite a bit more paint. I'm painting right over those little spokes of the wheel. We can come back and find them again. Looks like I am going to need more light color. So I think what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of this medium color, move it over here, add a bunch of white to it. And I'll have my light color again.
This is so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad you say that. I love it. From the very first day I started painting when I was 14, I just knew I would love it forever.
Yes.
It's very addictive.
It is. Especially if you're good at it.
And a lot of people, I tell you what, I think if you love it, you just keep working at it till you are good at it. And I would say that of myself and a lot of my students. I mean, I have kind of a good eye, which I ended up in my interior design career because I have a good eye for proportion and scale as well as color. And a lot of people do, and some people don't. And I have students that come in and have never really practiced using their eye for color and scale and dimension. So with a lot of practice, they say with practice comes talent.
Yes.
A lot of talent is merely just somebody practicing a lot. And I can tell you, I hate to say how many years I've been painting, but sometimes I admit it, like more than 40. I see that I'm better than I was 2 years ago, even now. So you get better and better and better. And a lot of people say, why do people take your classes for so many years? And it's like it's somebody who plays the cello or the guitar or the piano or writes books. They don't stop writing because they know that the more they do it, the better they get.
Right.
So you can get better and better and better until, I mean, I think Manet on his deathbed said I was just beginning to get it.
Really?
Or maybe that was a famous cellist. That might have been, I can't remember who it was, either a famous musician or an artist said, I practiced every day because I was just beginning to get really good at it. It might have been like Yo-Yo Ma or somebody, but.
I believe it.
Yes. And that's what's so addicting about it, is that you see yourself getting better and understanding it more.
Makes you want to do it more.
And it makes you want to do it more. And then there are days where you just didn't get it right. And that could be the same with your tennis game or your golf game. You know, you just want to quit one day going, I can't do this.
That makes me feel better.
I think one of the lessons I just did a couple months ago, I had a student here, and I think we were painting the bunny rabbit. And I painted it like 3 or 4 times before, and I was just, you see, I'm jumping here, going over my spokes on my bike. I'm trying to get that boardwalk in underneath the bike. I still generally know where that bike is and where those spokes are, so I'm not worrying about it too much. but her bunny rabbit was knocking it out of the ballpark, and mine looked like a cyclops. And I was so embarrassed at the end of the lesson. I'm like, well, I just didn't have it today. But I fixed it, and I showed everybody how I fixed it pretty quickly. That's the thing about oils. You don't have to get too discouraged, because you can fix it very quickly, and Morgan knows. I've already shown her a couple times today how to fix things.
Yeah, just water.
Yeah, with these paints, it's just water, and if you're using regular oils, it would be this turpentine that I had out earlier, Morgan. Paint thinner. So. All right, I'm pretty happy with my boardwalk. We're gonna come in and add a shadow later under the bike, and when we add that purple shadow color, we may drag some of that through the boardwalk, but I'm going to pause here and break and let you all get caught up. Okay, I hope everybody's enjoying the project. We are getting ready to start the bike. And Morgan and I paused a little bit there, and we helped Morgan get caught up because I do paint kind of fast. We're going to make 3 pretty shades of this aqua blue for this cute little blue bike. In fact, I might even scoop up some of the sky color I had left. So that's just white with that cerulean blue. If you didn't have any left, then you're just going to use white with a little speck of that cerulean blue. And then make it a little more teal, kind of a little more aqua turquoise. I'm going to reach over here to this color we haven't used yet, and I'm going to get a little speck of this deep emerald viridian green and swirl that around in your blue and white formula. And I think that would be maybe the medium shade of that bike. Then I'm going to take, you see how I have a little bit of paint just left on the bottom of my palette knife? I'm going to put that down and just pick up some white, and that should make the light color. Just a really light highlight color. And then for the darker color, I'm going to start all over. I'm going to pick up cerulean blue. It's the lighter blue. And about an equal amount of the viridian emerald green up there. And just a speck of white. And this will be the color that we use as the shadow color. So when we're painting something outdoors, when we're painting something anytime, we're painting highlights and shadows. It's all about the sun, where the sun is, or a lamp, where the light source is. Because that light source creates, number one, it creates color, because color doesn't exist without light. And it creates highlights and shadows. So in my color theory class, I always tell a story about if you had a lemon, and you took that lemon and you put it in a shoebox, and you closed the lid, and then you put that shoebox in a closet, and you close the door, and you walk by that closet at midnight. What color do you think that lemon is? It's probably black, because there's absolutely no light. There's no light hitting it. Now, if you opened the door a crack and your automatic light bulb pops on and you lifted the lid, you'd see that it was kind of like a dull yellow. But if you pull it out and you hold it under a bright light or walk out onto your porch with it and in the daylight, it's going to be a bright yellow. So we're painting the effects of light. That's what color is. So I'm going to take this medium shade and sweep with my brush here, sweep up that paint, loading my brush. So that's a nicely loaded brush. See, I just kind of load it at the end. And I'm going to paint the top fender of the front of the bike, the first front wheel. I'm just gliding that flat side of my brush along, letting that brush do the work. So if you use it on that flat side and just let it pull the paint, that's a good tool doing the work for you, just like a good golf club or a good tennis racket. And I love these brushes because they have this nice little bounce to them. They're just the right length and made from synthetic fibers, so they keep their shape and they keep their bounce. Like I said, just like when you hit a golf ball or a tennis ball with just the right pressure. These have this nice tension to them. So there's my 2 fenders. And then I'm going to put in the the bar, like I said, the little ladies bar here that kind of goes down, and you don't have to swing your leg all the way up over it like I used to ride my brother's bikes. And I'm too old to do that now. I tried to ride David's bike last summer, and I was like, I can't even get it. I can't get into it.
bike was so
I couldn't get into the seat. Yeah, it was tall. He's tall. And then I'm going to make I'm making a little more of this medium color to make the pole that comes, let's see, down from the seat to the pedals. No, I'm going to use my knife and make a little more of that medium green. I'm going to use white, cerulean, and a little viridian. So I'm going to make, that's the bar that comes from the seat to the pedal, I don't even know what that's called, Morgan, I can't think of it. I was calling it the gear shift, but that's not really what it is. Where the chain is. And then from the seat to the center of the back wheel. And then from the pedal thingy over to the center of the back wheel. There's my triangle I was talking about. So there it is in medium blue. Now I'm going to add highlight and shadow to it. So I'm going to come to our lightest color. And at the top of that fender, I'm going to add a little highlight. Now this is what I call, I'm using the chisel end of my brush. So I'm just kind of dipping my brush, instead of sliding it, I'm just dipping it in to get paint just on the tip. And instead of pulling that brush along like I've been encouraging you to do, I am now asking you to just kind of draw with your brush. Just draw that little highlight line. This is Morgan's, really your first time painting ever, really, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Not ever, but you've done some painting since, maybe.
Since high school.
Since high school, okay.
I had an art class in high school.
Oh, okay, good. I'm going to add a highlight with that chisel end of my brush, just kind of drawing on a highlight in the top of that fender. And then I'm going to come over here to the dark and go to the bottom edge of the fender and add the shadow color just a little bit here and there. Can't believe we're painting the July project. Where has the time gone?
It's just disappeared.
It just does. Okay. You know, I was just thinking when I was mentioning the snoring dog and I had Tucker under the table snoring so much, I never did put a picture of him in the video, so I'll put a little memorial at the end of this video of our little Tucker, our little studio dog. So there, I really like what I've got here for my aqua bike. The next thing I'm going to do, now I do not have black out on your, I'm going to reach over here, on your normal palette layout, because normally we make blacks, they're usually very reddish or greenish or bluish. And so the black that comes out of the tube is not usually anything that's close to what's found in nature. But something man-made like tires, they're pretty much just plain old black. So I would ask you to reach over to your set of paint and get some black out to make the color for the tires that we're about to do here. And kind of whatever kind of chrome or aluminum or whatever metal is on that bike. So I'm putting a little black out. I'll try to remember to insert that in the instructions at the very beginning of the video. So let's make 2 shades of black. Well, we'll have black and a shade of gray. How about that? So I'm gonna clean off my knife. Pick up the black, and that's what we're going to use for the tire. Kind of mostly well, that's gonna be the dark part of the tire. Then I'm gonna come over here, pick up a little bit of black, maybe an equal amount of white. Looks like I'm gonna need more percentage of white, more white in there. I think I'm gonna have to get some more white out. See, Morgan, I am getting more white out.
I think I stole your white.
Make that kind of more of a lighter shade of gray. So, like I said, Morgan's in town visiting from Omaha, and we're trying to decide where we're going to go to dinner after this project here. It's Memorial Day weekend, so there's going to be a lot of kind of crowds out, especially now that COVID's kind of over. Or, yeah, I don't know if it'll ever be over, but people are out and about now. So I'm going to pick up the light gray first, and I'm going to, even though my boardwalk kind of got in the way, I'm going to cover up that boardwalk a little bit with that circle where the petals come out, and then I'm going to use the chisel end of my brush and kind of just start those petals, kind of add them in. I was trying to play a little music. I don't know if you all can hear it in the background. I was trying to do something that wouldn't be too bothersome, but it's actually kind of sleepy music. I'm getting really sleepy listening to it. I'm gonna put in this back circle here where the spokes are coming out. And the same thing, a little something there.
Where did you do your black? Sorry, I'm catching up.
I'm using the black as like the darkest part of the tires and handlebars and seat, you know.
Okay.
And then to make a gray for the lighter part, just take a hunk of white and just add a little speck of black to it to make a light gray.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna take that light gray and drag it down here to make that first tire. And you know, don't worry if your tires look wobbly and lopsided and all that. That's what the last step is for. We'll come back at the last step and make all those little finishing touches. I always tell students, if you start worrying about all that in the beginning, in the early stages, you will never get to the last step. You'll just keep on trying to fix everything, and there's no such thing as perfection, so you're not gonna get there. So you gotta just move along. So I tell my students, we don't strive for perfection here. You want to show the viewer what you were thinking or feeling or what you enjoyed about that blue bike on the boardwalk, and it doesn't have to be some absolutely 100% technically perfect bike. You're creating an atmosphere. I just put these little white highlights. I think my neighbor has a blue bike like this, and she has those, there's like little white highlights at the beginning and end of each of the fenders. And I'm gonna take, again, the medium gray, and now I'm using the chisel end of my brush again. And I'm gonna draw in those spokes. Nothing too technical about it. Well, I know what we should really insert besides a little memorial to Tucker. Since I mentioned the two dogs, I'll insert a picture of Sophie and Gracie.
Oh, you should.
They are playing non-stop. Sophie's a year old and Gracie's 4 months old, so they're wearing each other out, which is okay with us, just fine with us. I'm drawing in those spokes. Ooh, that one's a little dark. These two are too close together. But I don't think if you showed this painting to anyone, they would say, ooh, look at those terrible spokes too close together. I'm picking up some black now. I'm going to add that maybe a little bit to the petals. and maybe to create some little detail on the thingy where the petals come out. And I'm going to take that black and kind of draw in a bottom line for the bike seat. I'm going to draw in a shadow line. And see how there's a difference between drawing and painting with the brush. Just kind of whenever I take that chisel end and kind of pull it along, I'm really drawing. And in this method of painting called alla prima, where we just put everything down wet and push it around, there's not a lot of drawing that goes on. If you were to paint just like true realism or Renaissance type painting, they do a lot more illustrating and, you know, kind of graphically drawing things with the paint. And we like this looser kind of style where we're kind of, what do you call it, just implying things. The bike seat, even though it's black, it's reflecting a lot of sunlight. So I'm going to reach up here to one of my blues from the bike and mix it into that gray a little bit. And so the seat has a kind of, I might even reach over to that cool ultramarine blue and just tap a little of that. So when black reflects sunlight, like if you're painting a black dog, you notice in the photograph that there's almost some light bluish areas because that black, when it's kind of shiny, it'll reflect the sky. If that photograph's done outdoors, and you'll see some blue. So that's why that seat has some blue in it. It's reflecting that blue sky. I just put a little white in there to make a highlight on the seat. And the last thing I'm going to do is take that medium gray and draw in those handlebars coming out from behind the basket. And black for the little grips on the handlebar. And I think it's looking pretty good. Now, a lot of times when I'm teaching, I don't notice some things, and usually Liel is looking over my shoulder saying, oh, well, you really made that all wrong. So we'll take a look during the break, and we'll take a harder look during the last step, which I call finishing up. And we will pause here, and we'll come back in and put in the basket and flowers and do our final editing. Okay, here we are at the almost last step. This short little step is going to be the basket and the flowers. So if this is your first lesson with me, usually the projects have 4 steps. For some reason, this one had some little parts and pieces that is making it, I think, about 6 steps maybe. So 5 or 6 steps. So it's a little longer, but I'm still, like I said earlier, I'm still trying to keep it easy for you. Right now I'm cleaning all that black out of my brush. And then I'm going to pick up my palette knife, and we're going to make 2 shades of brown for the basket. I'm going to go over here and pick up, well, I actually have a little brown left from my boardwalk. I'm going to pick that up. Add a little more dark brown to that. So I'll have a dark brown and a medium brown for the basket. That looks like the medium brown there. And I'm going to take the dark brown, maybe just by itself, to be the shadow color inside that wicker basket, between the wicker panels, the wicker, the weave of that wicker, so, or rattan. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up with my brush, kind of sweeping forward, and just lay down the whole basket in that lighter, or medium brown, the lighter of the 2 colors, which is kind of a medium brown. And since I feel like that's kind of dark, I'm going to pick up white with the end of my brush and just kind of give it some highlights here and there. And now I'm going to do the drawing part where I take the chisel into my brush, and I'm just going to kind of tap, tap, tap some little seams between the rattan weave of the basket. And I did some horizontal, and I'm going to do some kind of vertical. And it really looks like a little woven basket now. And that's it for the basket. That was pretty quick. How you doing there, Morgan?
Good.
Your bike and your basket, everything looks good. I noticed during the break that my tires are enormously huge compared to my first drawing. So I'll talk about that at the next step. I don't think it looks bad, which is different. So I'll see if I want to tweak it a little in that final step. But right now we're going to make the flowers. So we have a kind of a lavender flower and a blue and a pink. So again, our grade school lessons would tell us that red and blue make purple. So I'm going to go to this crimson red, that's your purple red. Just put a little speck on the end. It's very strong, so you just need a little speck on the end of my knife. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue, a little more than a speck. It's got to compete with that really intense red. Now that's going to be really dark, so we have to add a little white, just a speck of white to make sure that we can see. Oh, that's a really pretty purple. I think I'm going to lighten that up, and that'll be our little purpley blue flowers. And then I'm going to, so talking about temperature, I've got a lot of cool temperatures, like blue and green are cool temperatures. They're on this side of the color wheel here, these kind of cool colors. And the warm colors are up here. So we're adding some warmer colors by adding that little pink flower in there. So to make that pink flower, which is a nice contrast to have in the painting with all these cool colors, I'm gonna take a little bit of white and just a little speck of that crimson red, that purple red, and make a little pink. I might make another pink with the other red as well. Take a little white, a little speck of your scarlet red, and that makes a nice little warm pink. I love that. And I need some more white. I should always check during the break, but we get busy doing other things. Okay, I'm gonna take a little white. So the pink flower, Morgan, is gonna be white with a little speck of this brighter red. It's your scarlet red. Just a little tiny speck of that will give you a pink. I want to add, it's kind of still so light, I want to add a little more pink to that. Like I said, it's the only warm temperature in here, so I want to really give it some pop. So with the nice thing about this brush, I tell you it's got so many uses, but another use, you know, we talked about that chisel end where I do some drawing with it. Another use is to take this corner and I can make little dabs with it, and that's going to be the shape of these flowers. So I'm going to pick up the purple. I'm just going to dab some little flower shapes. Dab some purples and wipe off my brush, and I'm going to come over here and pick up that medium kind of purpley pink and dab in some flowers. So sometimes you wonder why an artist uses a certain color. You might say like, oh, I really want yellow flowers or orange flowers. It all comes into play in the harmony of the painting. So make sure you understand a little bit about color and temperature, understanding it, and that's the kind of why I like to talk about whether a color is warm or cool. So you can see that these pink flowers are bringing in a whole new color. I might even make a little bit darker pink. I keep thinking we're missing a little bit of a dark pink. There we go. I'm just using the corner of my brush to make little round, kind of round shapes. I might dip into the white and that lavender and make some kind of lighter lavender shapes. And I'll come back the next step and see if I have anything else I want to do. I'm making one really, really, really light lavender now. see if I can get that in there. I kind of like the flowers kind of cascading over the basket, looking like they're kind of out of control. There, that's good. A couple of flowers just kind of like you filled the basket so full. I think I'm getting out of control. So that's another thing, you gotta know when to stop. So we are going to stop now. We've got the basket and the flowers in. I'm sure there's gonna be quite a few changes I wanna make, and that's what the final step is for, and we'll see you and meet you back here when you're ready for that step. All right, we're about to start the last step, which I call final editing. I'm going to tweak the shape of my tires. I'm going to add a little more detail to my grass and fill in some of these gap areas. You know, when I'm putting color down, I didn't talk a lot about it today, but in order for colors not to blend into each other, I keep a little gap area. I'm going to fill those in, and then we're going to put this pretty purple shadow under the bike. So let's start with filling in some of the gap areas. So when I put in that handlebar, I left a little space right there that needs to be filled in by the water. Just tap, tap, tap some of that blue there. I want to talk about this grass. I'm going to take some of the blue, and I'm using my knife to mix instead of my palette knife here. I'm using my, brush, yeah. I'm gonna mix up. You can pick that paint up and mix it with your brush if you're careful. Don't, you know, a lot of people, when I start doing that, they get it all over their whole brush. Just keep it right here at the end. And let's put in some of those grass strokes. I think actually I am going to switch my palette knife, and I'm going to pick up the yellow and really make a nice medium green to put some last details in on that grass. Make sure I'm really happy with it. Some pretty grass strokes. This paint is real slippery. So I also talk a lot, which I don't know if I mentioned today much, that it's all about how lightly you control that brush. Keep it very, 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 the touch very light. You're not drawing. You just want to do a lot of just kind of sliding that brush along and tapping. Keeping the pressure on that brush very, very light. Now I'm feeling better about my grass. Some little areas I need to fill in. And maybe pick up this dark color here. I think Morgan's enjoying her first lesson here. We're thinking about maybe getting her to move back to Louisville, and she can take lessons and help me here at the studio, and definitely help me with marketing.
Yes.
It's a big job. And speaking of marketing, I would love it if you all would connect to the Facebook group page. It's I will put the link on, but it's go to your Paintbox group page. And I do have a drawing every month for, if you just post a comment, if you're too shy to post your picture on there, just post a comment or something about the lesson that you enjoyed, or a question or something you want to learn more about. And if you bought this project through the Crate Joy website, I'd love to have a review, hopefully a good one, because they will market me harder and more based on how many good reviews I get. So there aren't that many, well, there really are very, very few painting boxes out there. So if I got some good reviews, my marketing would kind of soar, and that would help me in my little business here. And I've got 2 or 3 little businesses here with my studio. I teach about 60 people a week in 5 group classes, and I paint live events. So I will be painting a wedding tomorrow night. They would like me to paint the cutting of the cake. My preference, my favorite things to do is paint the first dance, because the dress is always looking so pretty as it flows through the room, but the cake's pretty too. So tomorrow night I'll be out painting, and it's actually very unusual temperature tomorrow night here in Louisville. It's going to be probably about 52 degrees when I'm out there painting, which normally this time of year would be about 70. So maybe if I think about it, I could even include a snapshot of one of my wedding paintings along with the dogs in this video, if I think about that. Now, I mentioned earlier I thought those tires looked a little fat. I'm going to try something to maybe skinny them up. I might just try to take some of that boardwalk color and just kind of push down into that tire. See if I can't shrink it. I can also take a Q-tip. Let's see, Morgan, do you still have a Q-tip over there? And I keep saying I might add some Q-tips to your all's box so that you don't have to go running around looking for some at home. You can take a Q-tip and just kind of use it like an eraser. If you put water on it, it even acts more like an eraser, and I can just shrink that size of that tire. So I think it got kind of blurry. And you know what? It didn't look bad. I don't need to fix it, but just to show you all, if you do see something you want to fix, water on the end of Q-tip with a little water on the end will take care of it. And these are the things I'm saying that make oils easier than watercolors, because I don't think you can change these things in watercolors. And I think also if I put a little bit of a highlight on those tires, yeah, I like that. I'm just taking white on that chisel end of my brush and just dragging it along those tires. It makes them look much less bulky. Now I have to go in with the chisel end of the brush and that medium gray and touch up those spokes. And I noticed while I was helping Morgan over the break, I totally forgot to put on how this front tire is connected to the bike. Thank you all for not mentioning it. Okay. I'm coming from the handlebar area down to the center. And we're so nice to each other in class when we're all here. Nobody ever says anything mean or critical. But sometimes people will say, don't you need to add the handlebars? Okay, and a little thingy that connects there. The petals are looking a little weak, so I'm gonna bulk those up. And I might add a little more highlight to this seat just because it's kind of blending in with the grass back there. So if I just tap a little highlight on there, doesn't that look good? It kind of brightened that up. And any more little bright flowers I can add. Oh, I like that one. Now my flowers really look out of control, but that's okay. And a little bit of grass color filling in that gap. And I don't want to overwork this painting. What people like about art is that it doesn't look perfect. I mean, it depends on what kind of art you like. If you like total realism that looks like a photograph, well then you're in the business of making it look pretty perfect. But if you want it to look impressionist and creative, then I'm gonna stop soon so that we don't have it looking anywhere near perfect, where it just looks kind of fun and whimsical. And Morgan, I think I'm ready to sign my painting.
Awesome.
Now what you can do is you could take one of these little sharp pointed Q-tips and you could carve your name in there. See, I can kind of write K. Gray. And then it's signed. I'm pretty happy with it. Morgan and I will meet you back here on the other side in a minute and discuss how it went today. We'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, Morgan, we're finished. Well, Morgan actually wants to come back tomorrow and do a couple finishing touches because she didn't quite keep up the pace that I go with, and she hasn't done the shadow under the bike, and I think there's a couple other things that you were hoping to change or just work on. And the paint, the nice thing about oil paints is it does stay wet for quite a while. So you have the opportunity to come back within 12 to 24 hours to keep working on it before it starts getting a little too tacky and dry to work with. But definitely if you're painting within 2 or 3 or 4 hours to work on one project, the paint stays kind of fluid. So it's easy to move around, and it's kind of like, I always say, it's kind of sculptural because you're kind of pushing, it's like moving clay, kind of, oil paint, in this method when you're teaching kind of wet under wet a la prima method. What did you find any part extra hard?
I think the hardest part was, I didn't put everything right to the edge. So having to go back and the final touches, I think are the hardest part.
Well, I think all my new students always say they're most curious about, and the hardest part they think is going to be, and it ends up being when the two edges touch, like when a black tire meets a light brown boardwalk. How do you not get those colors to mush together and make a mess?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't talk about it as much in this lesson, but it's a lot about just kind of lightly putting those colors down where they don't really touch. And then at the very end, we can come back and kind of push them around. That's that sculptural quality of the oil where you can just push the two colors together a little bit. But I didn't talk a lot about that this lesson, so that's fair for you to think that was hard. And it just takes practice. I told Morgan, I love this famous quote that says, with practice comes talent. Because there might be a few talented people out there, but mostly every musician or artist is just, they've been out there practicing for a long, long time.
Right.
So come back and do another project.
I will. This was so much fun.
She's really had fun, and she really did a good job here, and we're gonna come back tomorrow, and I'm gonna be working in the studio on some other projects, and she's gonna finish up her bike. So I hope you guys had a good lesson, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks. I just literally can't believe that I painted this.
You did a good job. Was it easier than you thought?
Yeah, it really is. It was just overwhelming at first, but then I got into it, and you walking me through it just really helped me.
Well, thank you for coming in and taping with me.
Thank
It was fun
you.
having you. We'll have you back.
Can't wait.
It's a brand new day. The sun is shining. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long, long time, I know I'll be okay. Stories save the best part for last, and most stories have a hero who finds you. Make your past your past. Yeah, you make your past your past. It's a brand new day. The sun is shining, it's a brand